Everyone is selfish, and it's logically impossible not to be selfish. And in this video, I want to explain why. We're going to be looking at the different types of selfishness and going into a lot of depth, because there is objective selfishness and then there is subjective selfishness. Some forms of selfishness, as in objective, rational selfishness, is good, and that is what you should be aiming for. If your goal is proper survival and you want to flourish and have a happy, eudaimonious life, a healthy body, a healthy mind. The first type of subjective selfishness I want to highlight is the one that most people are commonly familiar with, what is colloquially known as selfishness, and people see that as negative. They see that as arrogant, self-serving, greedy, tyrannical, rude. That's the negative type of selfishness. It's where one knows they are acting in a way where they are the primary beneficiary. Because when it comes to selfishness, it's all about values, beneficiaries, actors, the executor. Because as a human being, as a volitional, intelligent being, we are forced always to act in accordance with a value hierarchy. It's impossible not to make a choice according to our values. And the idea of selfishness or selflessness, altruism, is who is going to be the beneficiary. Who's the beneficiary? The executor and the beneficiary. Who is going to receive the benefit of the values of my life? Because every action we take is in pursuit of some kind of value. You want to stand up because you're uncomfortable and you're going to feel better when you stand up. You're hungry, so you go down to the supermarket to get some food. Everything you do is in pursuit of some kind of values, and who is going to receive the value from your actions is going to be you primarily as the primary beneficiary, which is in objective selfishness. And then you have subjective selfishness, the first form, because there's two forms, where people perceive and they think they are acting in their selfish interest, but they're not. That's the main type that people understand. They say that it's bad when someone defrauds someone else and they're selfish in the negative sense. They think they are acting in their own interest to gain a value of, what's that word? Oh, I can't recall. Embezzle. A company they're working for, and they take $1 million, defraud their employer, and they think they're gaining a value, but then they get caught and then they go to prison, and they're not acting in their objective interest because they don't understand objective values. So this is a quick highlight. And then you have altruism or selflessness, which gets preached very often, that you should be more selfless. And so what does that mean? It means placing others before yourself, putting others' needs before your own. So it means causing yourself a loss. It doesn't mean helping people, just helping people, because you can do that when you are being objectively selfish. You can help others. Altruism and selflessness is to help others when it costs you, when it hurts you, when you lose more than you gain. That's what selflessness is about. Whereas objective selfishness, self-interest, rational self-interest, help people as much as you like when you're gaining. You can help people all day long and be completely selfish. And so I want to, in this video, talk about the abstracts, like in the principal sense of what these ideas are at the high level, and I'm going to give examples. So I want to ground it right now with some concrete examples, because I know that always helps me to understand. Examples of objective selfishness. A story that happened to me today where I acted selfishly. And it's so funny because I still have in my head the mainstream view. People are like, oh, he acted selfishly? What a bastard. But it's, no, that's why you need to have examples, because you can talk about the abstractions all day long, but until you ground it in something concrete, well, it doesn't have much gravity or moral weight to it. I was in a cafe. I was working on my laptop. I hear this big bang and crash behind me in the bathroom. I was like, what the hell is that? I turn around, and there was a bit of confusion because there was one woman who was kind of in front of me, and I had to peer around her, and I had to stand up to see what the commotion was, because I could kind of just see, and it's a bit scattered, remembering all the details. There was a man who was kneeling down, and I kind of walked through and I saw that a woman had fallen over and smashed these big pots. And there was kind of a woman in front of me, there was a man who was working at this cafe, and then there was another man kneeling down next to this black woman who had, it looked like she'd died. I was like, oh shit, I'm seeing a dead person, like for the first time in my life. That's the look on her face, where she was just on her side, and she was elderly, maybe 60s, just looked like had died. And I was like, I was in a little bit of shock for, half a second. Like, oh, what are you doing? Four bystanders there, and we're all just gawking. Like, what the hell is going on? What do we do? And so I snapped into action as quick as I could after the couple seconds of confusion. Like, okay, there's a dead person, or she's having a stroke or a heart attack and she just looks like she's dead. I don't know if she's actually dead. I can't confirm that yet. Okay, and I tapped the worker on the shoulder and I said, go call an ambulance. And he's like, oh, okay, right. And he runs off. And then I stepped around this woman. I think I stepped around the woman to get into the bathroom area. And the time I did that and I got in there, she was awake at that point. I was like, okay, that's a good sign. And so I said to her, just the first thing, can you breathe? Like that's you want to check that, because I wasn't deliberately going through doctor's ABC. Or is that how it works? So I got taught this stuff in the army. When I was in the army, you go over some medical training, and you take medical courses and stuff, and they try to prepare and train you for these circumstances, what to do. Danger, yeah, so you're looking for danger, response, send for help. And so I think, just the first thing I did, send for help, like, because this woman looked like she needed it. Okay, and I've gone in there, can you breathe? And she's like, yes, I can breathe. I feel better lying down. I was shocked at how coherent she was talking. She was talking like she was an intelligent university professor or something, how coherent and clear her words were. Just after looking like she had died. It was so weird. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's good. You can breathe. That's a good sign. And then someone else, actually the man who was kneeling there, he said, do you know her? Are you with her? I said, no, I don't. And someone else asked, is your family here? Are you with anyone? She said, oh, my husband is in the cafe. And I said, what's your husband's name? I'll go get him. Sean. It's like, okay, so I walk. Well, I'm telling you the full story here. I haven't told anyone this story. It happened to me today, and I think it's just a good example. So you can really see objective selfishness in action. At the end, I'll tell you why that's selfish. And so I walk out into the cafe, and I see one elderly gentleman. Actually, the first thing I was thinking, I wanted to ask, like, what's he look like? Does he look like you, as in black? But I was like, probably shouldn't say that. And turns out, no, he wasn't black, but still, I figured out who he was. An elderly gentleman sitting by himself. And I go up to him and I say, excuse me, are you Sean? I'm looking for a Sean. And he says, no. It's like, okay. And then so I'm looking around the cafe and I speak to one of the staff there. And I just say, a woman's collapsed. I'm looking for Sean, her partner. She's collapsed in the bathroom. And I look around and I couldn't see anyone else that could be her partner. So I go back into the bathroom to ask her for more descriptions, and at this point she's now kneeling at the basin, and there's a few more people around, the staff members, and I ask her, I say, excuse me, what does he look like? Can you describe him? And she starts saying, oh, he's in his 60s, a white gentleman, a white beard, a little bit pudgy. And there was a gentleman who actually looked very similar to that was walking into the bathroom at the time. I'm like, is that him? No, that's not him. And then Sean, the guy who had spoken to earlier, he comes over. I'm like, yeah, like your wife's on the ground needing your help. Anyway, she turned out to be okay. So that was very fortunate. But sometimes it's nice to feel heroic in those situations and trying to do what you can. I've got some more stories of selfish acts as well, so you can see what is objectively selfish. And so why is that selfish? Because that's acting in accordance with my value hierarchy. I value helping someone in a time of need, in an emergency situation like that, or just helping them in any situation where it doesn't cost me, where I don't lose, and it's in a form of reciprocation. If I was in that position, that's exactly how I would want someone else to interact with me, because I view strangers like that as innocent until proven guilty. I don't know the quality of their character, their moral worth. If I'd like them, I don't know. So I'm just going to presume innocent until proven guilty. It could be an NPC, could be a real spiritual being. I don't know, I don't care. I'm going to do what I can to help at the level I can without trying to do too much and worsen the situation. But I don't want to just sit there passively as an idle spectator and do nothing, or silently cheer on my mind, yes, they can suffer and die. No, I don't want to do that. That's what empathy is. It's treating others in a way that I wish to be treated. It's the golden rule of equity, treating others as I wish to be treated, even though I think this is a hell realm, the sim, the sovereignty inversion matrix, and the world is dominated by evil. An act like that is good. I want to do good things in the world that's opposite of the predominant control or negative aspects of this world. So I want to, there's that saying, be the good you want to see in the world. So that's in accordance with my values. It's reciprocating exactly how I would want to be treated. If I was in that situation and needed help, I want to create a better world for myself to live in. It makes me feel heroic. I feel useful. I get to act in a situation under pressure. And so all those things are valuable to me. And so to help someone else, and of course, you care about their life. They have objective worth, even if it is a stranger. Otherwise, if it's just a rock in danger, you don't act because you don't care about it. So that's what I'm saying, because people go, oh, that's terrible. You're only doing it all for yourself. You don't care about the person at all. Well, obviously there is care. Otherwise, I wouldn't be helping them. They wouldn't be of value. Obviously, you care about their life for all the reasons I've just said. So that's why that is objectively selfish, because it's acting in accordance with a value hierarchy that I have chosen. I know and I understand why I'm doing it, and there's no loss to me. I am the primary beneficiary in that situation. Any help I offer to someone else, they are the secondary beneficiary. I'm doing it for myself first and foremost, because that's the kind of character I want to be. So it's in alignment with values, there's no loss. So that is one example of being objectively selfish. Let's look at a sample or an example of being subjectively selfish. And I'll give another case for myself. There was a time when a friend had invited me, this was maybe close to 10 years ago or something. Yeah, maybe more. He invited me to come for a drive with him. He needed to drive 4 hours away or something to pick up a car or do something, and he wanted company. So he asked me, and I said, yes, okay, I'll go with you tomorrow. But then something happened. I changed my plans at the last minute, and I texted him very late at night the day before that, hey, I can't come, I've changed my mind, I'm going to do something else. And understandably so, he was very pissed off at me. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing at the time was wrong because I lacked experience. And so, yeah, he was pissed off. And I thought I was acting in my own best interests, but I actually wasn't, because that friend was a higher value to me than any other excuses I had made. I changed my plans to hang out with a girl or something like that. I can't recall exactly, but I placed a lower value above a higher value. It was like an irrational sacrifice, subjective sacrifice, as I spoke about in the video just before this one. It was the wrong choice to make, but I believed I was acting in my own best interests. According to my values, I thought I was the primary beneficiary. But if I could go back now with the knowledge of what he said to me, because he said, you shouldn't have done that to me. I asked you in advance, I wanted company, you said you would come with me, and then you didn't give me any time because I had to leave early in the morning, and so no one else could come with me. That was a dog move. I don't appreciate that. You shouldn't have done that. And I was like, oh, I see your point. Fair enough, okay. And I've never done something like that again. fair enough, understandable. So that actually, you feel bad about that and you go, oh, I'm never going to do that again. I thought that was in my interests to cancel on someone, but it's not, because I didn't give, it's not to say that you can never cancel on something, but I just didn't give them enough time. It was an inappropriate, that was inappropriate behavior to cancel on what I had promised to do with such little notice to him. That's the point. And so that is irrational, that is subjectively selfish. Subjective as in, I didn't understand what was objectively valuable. That friend, the relationship with that friend was more objectively valuable, and keeping her on good terms and not doing anything to disrespect them, because what kind of behavior do I want in return from a friend? I want them to respect me, so I need to respect them. Just basic logic, common sense. It's not common. Well, basic laws of reciprocity. And then you have, so I've gone over objective selfishness. That was a case of subjective selfishness. Another example would be, that was the embezzlement, the defrauding, or someone who is rude, or they cheat on their partner. That's a good example of someone cheating on their partner. That is subjectively selfish. If they really truly do value their current partner, but then they cheat on them, that is not in their best interest. If they don't actually want to be with this partner, they're going to break up anyway, and then they cheat, that can change the context. And then if that's the catalyst for them to say, hey, I don't want to be with you anymore, okay, understandable. But if they do want to be with their partner and they cheat on them, well, that is not in your best interests. So that is the problem with subjective selfishness, is the person doesn't understand what's actually valuable, what is good for them and what is not. And that's the same with the next form of subjective selfishness, which is selflessness or altruism. The means of value acquisition or pursuing values, or executor and beneficiary relationship, the orientation of the executor, the actor, you taking the action, and who is going to receive the value as the beneficiary. What selfless people do, or the theory of selflessness, is to place others' needs before your own. It's to make sacrifices and to lose more than you gain. And they are the theories that is the right thing to do. A lot of it comes from religion. Look at Christianity with Jesus. I should lose, I should be punished and hurt, because that is ultimately the highest good. That is what is good, that's what makes me morally good. I get social approval, or social recognition and status, or I get entry into heaven, obedience to God, even if it costs me everything, that's worth it. So even with altruism and selflessness, you can't actually be selfless. It's actually logically impossible. From my understanding of thinking this through at this point, I'm happy to be rebutted, but I'll basically present my argument, because even if you are acting, there's a couple layers I need to explain here, so I'll just go through it one at a time. The first argument being that even if you are being selfless, you are still being selfish, but it's subjectively selfish, which means it's not good for you. It doesn't support your proper survival. It's not objectively selfish. Remember, objectively selfish is just good. It's doing what's good for you. Subjectively selfish, the two types. One of them is you think you're doing what's good for you, but it's not. Well, actually, they're both just that as well. They're both. The first form, though, is you think you are the primary beneficiary. The second form is you think someone else is the primary beneficiary. God, your children, your parents, your teachers, religious groups, the society at large, grandma, whoever. And so with selflessness, well, you have to understand, as a volitional being, every action we take is according to a set of values. There's the triple I: indoctrination, inexperience, and incompetence. That's the only way you can be subjectively selfish, in either of those two forms, where you think you're doing what's good but it's actually not, is via inexperience, like my case example with the friend, and I said, hey, I'm not going to come, and I left it at the last minute. Inexperience, incompetence. It wasn't indoctrination. There was nothing to do with indoctrination, but I was just inexperienced because I was young and I was incompetent. I didn't understand values. And then the next day he tells me, oh, I've got the experience now, I've got the competence in this specific situation, that kind of communication skills on a friendship level. Okay, I've got that. Fantastic. Though indoctrination, there's so much indoctrination. Get this thing stuck in your arm. That's a sacrifice. That is to be selfless, thinking about others before yourself. Don't go outside of your home. Wear this mask on your face. Pay your tax. Donate to the church. Stay with a partner even when you don't want to be with them. That you should get married to keep your partner happy even when you don't want to do it. When your partner wants to have a child and you don't want to have a child, but you want to make them happy even if it hurts you when you're losing. So these are selfless acts where you are compromising yourself. You're not acting for yourself. Technically you are, but you don't think you are. You're not acting in your objective interests according to objective values. You're acting according to a subjective value hierarchy. You think keeping your partner happy is more important than you truly being happy. By breaking up with her and being single or finding another partner, you think keeping her happy by staying in the relationship when you don't want to. You actually believe that. You're wrong, but you believe that, and so therefore you are still acting according to your value hierarchy. It's just that it's a subjective value hierarchy, meaning it's not factual. It's just based on ideas that cannot be grounded in axiology. They're not actually valuable. It's not good for your proper survival. It's not good for your body or your mind's health and function. It doesn't move you forwards in any positive direction. It actually degrades and takes away value and the quality of your life. Mother Teresa or Gandhi or these people who sacrifice and they cause themselves bodily loss, psychological loss, financial loss. So that's what it means to be selfless. It means to act for others in ways that hurt you, that cause you loss, that degrade the quality of your life. And you are ultimately doing that because you believe it's in your best interests, either through inexperience, incompetence, or indoctrination, or a lot of the time a combination of all three. If you are taking the stab sticks in the arm and you are acting selflessly, you're like, oh, I don't really want to get this, but I need to get it to keep other people safe. If that is your mentality, then you are putting, in your value hierarchy, you are putting the safety and welfare of others above your safety and welfare, or even what you believe is true and right. And so therefore you are still technically acting selfishly in accordance with your value hierarchy. It's just that it's a bad value hierarchy that isn't anchored in axiology, in objective axiology and your flourishing and proper survival. It doesn't pass the dual standard test of what's good for your body and mind. But you think it does. So you are still acting selfishly. It's just subjectively selfishly. You're doing it in the second form of subjectively selfishly for other people as the beneficiary. You think and you believe you are putting other people before yourself, but you're not. It's like when someone is a parent and they say, look at everything I've sacrificed you. They're putting their child first. They're spending all this money on their child. They're spending all the time. Yes, in a way you believe you are putting the child first, but you are still only doing that because you think that is what is best for you. Because otherwise, if you didn't take care of your child, you might have legal services come along and take the child away from you, and then you get publicly shamed and humiliated. You lose your status in the community. There's all these other factors. And so you say, well, I hate my child, but I have to look after them because that's the best thing for me. I've made this mistake. I need to do this. And so you're still acting in accordance with the value hierarchy no matter what. Even if you are standing there and there's a car coming to crash into your child and you jump in front of the car to protect your child, I wouldn't call that subjectively selfish. I'd call that objectively selfish. Because if you do truly value your child's life more than your own, and I think if you're going to be a parent and have a child, you should, because what kind of person would be like, oh, my kid's just about get hit by a car. Oh, oh, I'm one of those objectivists or objective philosophy and rational, logical, I'm not going to put my body in harm's way. It's like, no, that's what you should be doing because that's your child. That should be your highest value. And if it's not, don't have a kid. Don't have a kid then. And so if you jump and put your body in front of your child, well, you acted in accordance with your objective values, objectively selfishly. I hope this is making a lot more sense, and I don't think I need to say too much more about this except for maybe grounding it with a few more examples. I find examples always help to really solidify your understanding of the abstract. Actually, I'm going to give one more run through. I hope that makes sense. With selflessness, the perspective, the philosophy is that one should place others before themselves. Mother Teresa, Gandhi, Jesus, perhaps the Buddha, these different gurus who say that they perhaps do that, people who maybe donate to charity, although I don't like the idea of charity whatsoever. I've got a video talking about what should we do about bums, talk about how charity is not the answer, but I don't think there really should very rarely ever be a time and place for charity. But that's getting besides the point. I'll save that for another video. I've got good arguments for that as well. Selflessness. Selflessness is when one believes they are putting the needs of someone else before themselves, but logically they cannot. It's impossible. You can only act in accordance with your value hierarchy. Even if you are under gunpoint and someone's threatening you, you need to stack these rocks over here. You need to give me $50 out of your wallet. Well, you're still acting selfishly, even if you're being forced or threatened to do something, because you're only handing over that money because you don't want to be shot. So you're acting selfishly in accordance with your values. What do you value more? Giving up the $50 or that $50 or your chest and the absence of a bullet wound in it? What do you value more? Okay, you take that choice. You stack the rocks, hand over your wallet. I just thought of another objectively selfish example. When I was in Colombia, I was there with my dad and his partner, and we were walking down the street, and I hear Tanya, my dad's partner, yell out, "James, like, help, help." And I turn around, and there was two blokes coming up to my dad, and they were like trying to mug him. And which was surprising, because I was only like 10 meters in front of him, but these two, they looked like druggy teenagers, guys in their 20s or something, and they tried to mug my dad. So I've just run over there and started going off my nut and ended up scaring them away. And they had knives, but just sometimes it's good to show extreme aggression, and they just bug it off. And so that is objectively selfish too. Oh, I could have been hurt. Well, to be candid, they weren't extremely threatening men. That can change the context. If you're like, oh, that's some big bald-headed scared dude and a scary guy, and there's like 5 of them. It was just, but still, even then, when you're in a situation, you've got an extremely high value, like your parent, and there's a case where, well, if the context was changed and it's like, well, hand over the wallet or you get stabbed, then it probably is better to hand over the wallet. But I didn't see the knives until I'd started charging at them to throw a punch and to scare them off. And then I hear my dad's partner like, they've got knives. I was like, oh yeah, so they do. I don't care. Fuck off. Get out of here. And very lucky that, or fortunate from the way I reacted, they did just leave. But if they started to come forward with a knife, well, it's up to you. You can decide, well, do I want to fight? It's very likely you get stabbed. Even if you do win, you probably get stabbed or cut. Do you want to make that choice? And, well, why am I doing that as well? Because it's in protection of my family. Okay, that's very important. That's objectively selfish. So that's another example of what it means to be objectively selfish, because that's what do I value more? The protection of my family or my bodily integrity from maybe getting stabbed? And that's why it's really context dependent, because if the situation changes, you go, that value hierarchy can flip. It's say, Dad, just give over the wallet. If you think you've got no chance. You try to scare them away. They're not getting scared away. You're like, do I start initiating violence and probably at least get stabbed once or killed? Is that worth whatever is in my dad's wallet? No. You hand over the wallet. But if it's in a situation where if you've got to fight to the death, well, that's now getting outside the province of what we're talking about, selfishness. So no need to go into there. But if you've got to fight to the death, I'll just add it in, you fight to the death. If someone is trying to kill you, fight to the death, that's going to be better. And again, it depends on context. Everything depends on context. That's what it means to be objective. It is to always understand the facts in accordance with a context. Always. Super important. And that's why it can be difficult to learn what it means to be objective, because until you learn the principles, the foundations, it can seem to change. It can seem, because it's not absolutist. It's not saying never lie, never be violent, never be aggressive. It's like, because sometimes it is good to be violent, sometimes it is good to be very aggressive, sometimes it is good to lie, but it depends on context. Most of the time, you shouldn't. Objectively selfish is to act in your own rational self-interests in accordance with a value hierarchy that you've chosen, that you know is good for you. Subjectively selfish of the first kind is where you believe you are acting in your own interests, where you are cheating, you are lying to friends or family, you are defrauding someone, you are stealing, and you think you are acting in a way which is good for you, but it's objectively not, because there's all these negative consequences. You have to live with fear, you have to keep making up more lies, and then you get caught out, and then you lose trust, and you destroy your relationships, and there's always this anxiety of, when am I going to get caught? Are the police going to come? Am I going to go to prison? Is someone going to stab me in the back? Is someone else going to do this to me because I give permission to the universe that, and I say it's okay to do this, and so therefore I'm validating this kind of behavior as acceptable, and in turn anyone can do that to me now if I'm going to be evil or immoral. Well, you're giving express permission to the world at large and other people around you who do find out about the kind of character you are. You can do this to me because I'm the kind of person that does it to everyone else. So that's not good for you to be that kind of subjectively selfish person. And then the altruism and the selflessness, that is not good. That is not good, because that is helping others at cost to you. That's what that is. And so the form of, because basically what I did was I collapsed all the ways you can act as an executor and beneficiary into two different ways: objectively selfish and subjectively selfish. And that's called traditionally psychological egoism, that everyone is fundamentally selfish at their base nature. And yes, I think that logically is true. I think it's impossible where you can actually fully be altruistic. The only way you could is if you had Elon Musk's Neuralink in your head, or you're connected to the Bohr collective, because there's no self to act anymore. Provided there's a self, you're conscious and you have volition, you can choose, you're making choices. Even when it's not in your interests, when you're putting other people before you, you're still doing that because you think it's in your best interests. You think it's in your best interest to get married because other people will approve of you, and you're putting their approval above your own happiness. That's why it's subjective, because you don't know how to structure your value hierarchy. If you're placing other people who don't matter to you and they are not good people, or they're just incompatible with you, and you're placing their approval above your health, above your happiness, that is an inverted value hierarchy. You've got negative subjective values. You're classifying them as more important than they actually are, and you're classifying objective values like your own happiness, your freedom, or your wealth, you're placing them below on that hierarchy. So you've got it inverted. You've got the bad above the good. The good is below the bad. Do I really need to have any more examples? I had more examples of objective selfishness because it was just fun. Oh, should I finish off with one more objectively selfish example from my own life? Oh, okay. All right, here's one. The other day, I'm in Ubud, Bali at the moment, and I went to this shop called Bali Buddha. And it's a really cool natural health food store. I love it, actually. It's a really good shop. And as I rocked up on my motorbike, I was trying to park, and it was very narrow, the spaces to park in, and quite a few motorbikes. And as I've tried to slowly, gently come in, my bike has tapped the scooter next to me, and it's knocked it over. I was like, oh shit. And lots of people saw this, well, lots, like 5 people. And so I parked my scooter, gone over, picked the scooter up, put it back on the kickstand, and I've checked it, and I'm like, oh shit, there's a fair bit of damage. Like, it's scratched the paint on the side, and it's bent the front right-hand brake. Like, didn't break it, but it's bent it, so that would need to be replaced. I mean, it's still usable, but it's damaged. And I was like, okay, shit. You know, the owner of the bike hasn't seen this. What do you do in that situation? And so someone who may be subjectively selfish, they might just be like, oh, I'm just going to go. And they just leave because they're like, I don't want to pay for this. I've caused a problem, committed a crime. I need to go. I don't want to pay for this, right? But what I did is I went inside, I bought my stuff, and then I just asked the staff for a pen and paper, and I just wrote down, I tipped over your bike. You can contact me for details or organize payment or remedy or something like that. Here's my mobile number. And I just wrote that on a piece of paper. I took a video of that paper there and of the bike and the damage. And also, there was a lot of scrapes on the other side of the bike where it hadn't tipped over. So I was like, I don't know how much of that I caused. Maybe I didn't cause most of this damage. I definitely, well, then again, I don't know if I definitely caused the front brake to be damaged. I don't know. So I really don't know how much damage I caused, but I know I tipped over the bike and it would have caused some damage. So I took that video, left the paper, and that was like 3 days ago or something now, and they haven't reached out to me, which I am grateful for. It's like if they do contact me, I left the right number, but I also could have wrote the wrong number and put the paper there to get the social approval of everyone else, because I've been back to that shop numerous times as well. But it could have been easy just to look like I was doing the right thing, Machiavellian style, and actually wrote the wrong number. But I did. I wrote the right number, did the right thing. And that is another example of being objectively selfish. Why? Because if I did the wrong thing in that situation, who would know? Me. I'd know, and I'd have to live with that. And I start becoming a walking, living contradiction. And I don't want to be like that, because that is my enemy. Being a hypocrite. Violating the golden rule of equity. That's what I hate about this world. That is the part of humanity that I hate, is when they don't act objectively. I'm glad they haven't reached out to me and I haven't had to pay for the damages, because do I really want to pay for the damages? No, I'd prefer not to. But if I need to, well, then I will. I would. But yes, nothing's happened there. So that's another example of being objectively selfish. Do I need to get, that's enough examples, because there's some pretty tough real world examples of what it really means to be objectively selfish, to act in accordance with your value hierarchy and to benefit. It's to do what's right in accordance with what you know is right. Yeah, again, I don't need to go over. I've said it. We're done. We're done. All right. Well, if you have any questions or you find any flaws in my argument, I'm open to hearing about it, always working to reinforce and strengthen my positions. I hope you found that really valuable. This does link in heavily to irrational and rational sacrifice, and then it links into the objectivity of values. I do have a prior video talking about objective values, subjective and intrinsic. I'll be making more videos on that soon, linking in values very heavily into axiology. And axiology is quite broad, talking about the nature of good. What is the good? What is the standard of good? What is the standard of value, or the dual standards of value? What is proper survival? What is flourishing? Is that, well, that's the same as proper survival. But what is the purpose of life? What is the highest good? What is the meaning of life? How do you figure all this stuff out? What is the prime objective? So I'll be talking about that all very soon, because that all links in. And to understand properly what I talked about in this video, it's very important to understand all those layers as well, because that's how I'm able to argue this position, because I know the axiology. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you in the next one. Bye bye.